We're dead. No, I
Oh
mean,
no.
yeah, doesn't it get tired of you? You see that the thing says live, and I always say, "Well, we're live."
Yeah.
Tired of that sometimes,
Well,
but we're not
let's say at least dead in the waters.
we're not dead yet. What a way to get the day going. I'm
Yeah,
Brent.
I'm Paul Greenberg, and hopefully still alive, even if CRM Playaz is dead in the waters today.
Now I come on and I'm already mad, cranky, angry. Whenever you spend way too much money on something that should work easily and it doesn't, we're dead when we
And
start.
that's why you don't even have lighting on. Your aura is blue.
It should be a lot bluer than that, or well, maybe our moment of spin will turn things around for us. Let's see. What the hell is that?
Well, that's easy. That's
Russian, right?
Hebrew.
Oh,
That's
Hebrew.
Hebrew. Oh yeah, it says shalom. I
Wow.
can't. I
That
so
said Shalom.
well. Keep in mind, you have to read from the right to the left.
Oh yeah, that's gonna make
Not
a big difference for me.
well. The first word is shalom.
All right.
Ugh, uh, God,
Wait. Was that next word? Ha! What you just said?
no, it's
All right.
no nid
I take this literally.
nidrash. I can't read. It's hard to read it because the actual font isn't really the way I look at, or the way the way I learned Hebrew. The actual font itself, it's simplified, and I'm missing things that would make it more obvious to me what the letter is.
All right. Well,
Ritzen,
I'm not
letter,
even going to
letter,
try to
Ritz.
guess that. So Sven, if you could let us know,
I know.
the particulars there. In the
I
meantime,
can tell you for sure, though, that is absolutely Hebrew.
all
So
right.
that I'm
What
sure of.
else is new, person? What else
I
is
don't
new is
know.
that your security settings on LinkedIn won't let us know who you are. That's what that's what it is. All right, here we go. Sven does not even know what. All right,
This
who's
is
the user?
this is leaning to Esteban, but
I don't know though. I don't in the
right.
valley.
Oh no, it could. Alan would know. No, Bob Fagel. He's Jewish, and he would
Okay.
know. We were trained. The
Sven
font is
says yes,
terrible.
yes. The font.
Yeah, it is the font. Then notice what LinkedIn user said above that. The vowels are missing, right? And they are. I can't. They're not there. Hello, friends. Be the change that you wish to see in the world.
All
That's
right,
nice.
that's really nice, Sven. My change I want to see in the world is to get this damn thing I just bought working. I don't know if that counts, but that is what it is. Hey, it's Keith Tier.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's not that, Keith. I could literally still recite my bar mitzvah to you and read it with the Hebrew, but with that font, and I can sort of transliterate the Hebrew, but I don't really know what it means.
no, well, we're close enough, and that completes the moment of Sven. And I'm still in a grumpy mood. Oh,
I'm surprised we don't have the moment of spend brought to you by. It'll be
nobody.
like baseball games now. The third strike is brought to you by, right. The fourth out is brought to you by. It's like every baseball broadcaster uh, ball pitch is sponsored.
Well, you know what's brought to you since 2009? The As. That's
We're
right.
bringing the ass.
The As since 2009. Literally didn't know that until 2023, but that's okay. We're good. How do I turn off the CC?
The closed captions. I'd have no clue.
I don't know. What, you don't want to see us and read what we're saying? Is that what you're saying, Keith?
I mean, it's probably depends on where you're watching it. It's probably something there you could find. If you're watching on LinkedIn, just go to some settings somewhere for the.
Well, see, I know why Keith is joining us today because this subject matter is really right up his alley.
Yeah.
And let's see, why am I not seeing what I want to see here? So later today, gosh, StreamYard really needs to do better with the
I
way that
know.
they transfer these slides from PowerPoint over to their system.
You know what I did? I figured out how to deal with it. Turn it into a PDF file.
So
If you do that, it translates faithfully.
faithfully.
Yeah, meaning whatever you put out there is what you see.
Okay. Well,
Yesterday I did it for the show when I was launching Talking Headless. So I did a PowerPoint, and and it was StreamYard made it look disastrous. So I went back and I turned it into a PDF, and it was absolutely pristine.
by the way, sorry, the Moment is Fin will not be brought to you by Blueberry Bagels.
That's exactly right, Sven.
Although
Thank
as
you.
tasty as they may be,
Not the case.
unless somebody a Blueberry Bagels wants to sponsor, that would be awesome. Could you imagine a Blueberry Bagel manufacturer?
Well, we do have standards, for advertising.
Yeah, my standard would
We
be
can reject the advertisers, and it's going to have to be a unanimous decision between you and me. So
somehow that
it
doesn't
would be
work.
rough. Think of it this way: it would be way more often if Prince's Estate advertised with us.
All right, well, we better move on. So
we both go for that one.
Unfortunately, you cannot see what today's topic is, thanks to StreamYard. Thank you. First of all, my audio interface, and now StreamYard. I mean, what could happen next? Anyway, we're going to be talking about venture capitalism, private equity, money, and enterprise software. And is it all basically just going to AI at this point? So we have assembled two of our favorite folks in that area. Scott Beechuk, who we met way back when he was at Salesforce.
Yeah, way.
.com. Remember, he was one of the product leads for that at the time. And of course, the man who has, let's see, at least two nicknames, the Midas of Martech, which I like. I think that's
they're actually both good nicknames.
I like the Golden Smog of CRM. I mean, that's kind of.
I like that. I love that too, even though it makes literally no sense at all. But it really sounds good.
It sounds great, and if you were a fan of the Flintstones, you would know.
Right.
No,
you can't be. The Flintstones are being canceled now. I literally saw. What? I saw an article on 8 shows, 8 classic cartoons that would be in trouble today, and the Flintstones were one of them.
What the hell could be wrong with the Flintstones?
The Jetsons, the Flintstones. I am not kidding.
All right.
One of them was To the Moon Alice equivalent stuff for Wilma and Betty.
We better move on because I don't want to get.
It was pretty stupid. This article was the classic of classic stupidity.
In the mood I'm in, I could say something that just won't. Anyway, let's talk about something a little bit more, positive. What about a show that was relaunched just this week? It's called Talking Headless, and I happen to have a bit of a clip.
Oh, okay. I'm really anxious to see who does this.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see. Let's find out all together.
No idea. To become a true infrastructure company, they have to provide the set of services necessary to sustain and support that infrastructure. And that's exactly what they're doing. You can't really go right ahead and call them a software company if you want. Really, they're not. They're an infrastructure company that provides software, services, and hardware and genuine infrastructure to do what needs to be done to build out a human-centric kind of world. They're a private company, and they're holding themselves private deliberately. And the reason they're doing that is so that they can do what they want with their profit. You know what they do with their profit? They invested in public service.
That was the relaunch of Watching Headless.
That would actually be horrible. Watching Headless would be awful. My God.
That's not a bad show. That's not a
new horror movie. It's a new horror movie.
Sorry,
Watching Headless.
And no, but that was good stuff. I just want to give them a taste because I want them to watch it. I don't want you to go into a lot of detail. I just wanted to play that to let people know it's back. You're talking about, what's going on, what you see in the industry, the companies, what you like and what you don't like. Yes, and so people go to watch that. Don't Don't give them too much here. Just
I won't give them anything more. It's available right now. And well, the one thing I'll say is because it didn't really come across right away was the company we're talking about there was Zoho. That I'll say. And there is another segment which you should watch, just called Something I Really, and just that's at the end. And beyond that, I won't tell you anything else.
go and watch.
So yes, watch Talking Headless. Don't watch Headless.
Yeah, don't whispered headless or
Right. Watch Whispered Headless. Watch Whispered Headless. Watch Headless Insights.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on. So, and I know you're like this too. Got a lot of stuff in your room, and it just gets on your nerves every now and again, like cables and
like today. Like today.
Yeah. So I cleaned a little bit yesterday in here, and as I was cleaning, I was moving the stuff around. I had this table. I was like, oh, let me just put my cameras on here for the time being. So this is what this table actually ended up looking like. that's a lot. I mean, there's only 4 of my box cameras. I got 5 of them. The Sony, I think that's the A6400. Right. I got that first
the Black Magic
H5. That was
the GH5, right?
GH5.
There's the Black Magic there.
The Black Magic Pocket Cinema 6K. And that very first one, I had completely forgotten I had bought that. It's
Canon.
A Canon. I was like, that was the very first one. I bought that, I don't know, 8-9 years ago.
Wow.
And then, of course, you got the assortment of lenses. So I posted
that's partial.
Yeah, because I exactly. So I posted this. And just because this kind of looks cool. Here's some of the immediate responses. Buddy Jason, think you may have a problem. I have a lot of them, so you're right about that. But here's where it got interesting. Dan Barry, quite the avid photographer, Brent. Now you know why that's interesting, right?
Yeah, given you're not a photographer at all.
Given that, how many pictures do you think I've taken with all of those cameras combined?
None.
Exactly. So that's why I really like the response to that from Joe Eisner.
Go, Joe.
Joe has got it right. Looks more like a video or a wannabe videographer. We better put it like that. And so he's right. So I don't take pictures, but all that stuff is literally. For
totally get it. The only pictures you probably take some pictures like I do with the iPhone.
Yeah, well, that's how I took that picture. I used my
exactly. That's the photography. It's the iPhone. The most
easy and convenient way to take a picture.
Exactly.
So I'm not a photog. I'm definitely not like Mike. Man, what is Mike?
Well, there's a lot of Mics involved. It could be Fawcett, Krigman.
Yeah, Mike Fawcett. That's what I was looking for.
Michael Krigman. Michael Thomas. The 3 Michaels.
If I was actually named Michael, then maybe I would have been taking pictures.
Clearly.
Absolutely.
Michael Thomas, Michael Krigman, Michael Fawcett.
It also spurred a very interesting conversation with one of our guests about exactly how much money have I spent on this stuff. And I didn't even have a heart to really go into it. Maybe that's for another show, maybe for another show, but maybe it's for our gear show because everybody seems to like the combo of the camera and the lens. So maybe we could, because I know you got it too. So maybe we can do our next gear show, actually talk about that and why we chose that and how we get it to look like it does. Because people are very complimentary of the way that stuff looks. So
I know. All right. It works for me. All right, everybody, you heard it here. Creativity and in action. Live creativity.
Yeah, live, it's good. Anything else we should talk about before we move on? What? Actually, I want you to talk about one thing. I'm gonna prompt you because it was an image that I saw. It was actually a post but this was something I saw.
Silvana. Yeah, I saw that too. Well, look, I mean, so Silvana was a guest on CRM Convo this week, and
I thought it was in the hot seat.
No, it was CRM Convo.
That says in the hot seat.
Oh, that was me. Oh, that was in the hot seat. I thought it was CRM Convo. I don't know what I'm thinking. That was 2 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago. Anyways, look, here's the story with Silvana. I met her, I don't know, 20 years ago when we were both associated with Bob Thompson's, what was it called back then? CRM Guru. And it was before it was Customer Think. And we were on the board of advisors. She's aside from being one of the nicest, kindest, smartest human beings I know ever, she is brilliant when it comes to organizational change. And not only is she brilliant, but she's creative. And as a result of that, if I'm looking at it from the standpoint of other people involved in that field, I arguably could say she's the best in the world. And the reason I say that is not just simply because she has both the knowledge, depth, and experience to execute and implement, or we'll get to that in one brief second, but she also has the ability to explain it to people in a way that they'll actually understand. And to the second point, she knows how to execute. Like I keep blocking the name of the institution, but she got what basically was when I think this is before her company was sold to Bond. She got the contract it was one of the bullet trains in kind of things in Europe, and I'm blocking it totally, but it's big and I know the name if I heard it, but I can't think of it. But she got the contract to actually build out the complete customer experience from the stand, and then how would I put it? Revamp the culture of the company that I'm trying to remember the name of. She got the contract to build out the customer experience from the second a customer walks to a train station to the time they get off the train and leave the next one. And that means on the train, through the ticket counters, everything. And then the second part of the mandate was to revamp the culture of the company so that it could meet the need of that experience, right? And it was just, she won that with no brainer, and all her employees like Monique Jansen are just fantastic at what they do. I mean, and as an amazing second aspect, her husband Roberto is one of the leading restaurateurs it was in the hot seat. Thank you. I don't know why I was saying what I said.
Can I just break it and say
I even wrote it. Wrote it.
That was the very reason I wanted to shoot it so you could talk about it, her being on.
Oh, no, it's all right. Doesn't matter. I'd rather talk about her than it, to be honest. She, as much as I love In the Hot Seat, and it's one of our shows, I just love her. I just absolutely adore her. And Roberto, leading restaurateur, owns like 4 or 5 restaurants, including one of the best restaurants, all in all of Madrid.
Okay.
So, and great.
And I've been there. It was great. But and if you want to check her out.
Well, let me put it this way also. If Brent says a restaurant was great, then it was truly great.
It was good.
Of course.
It's really good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really did.
11 courses, if you remember.
No, very cool. No, check out that In the Hot Seat.
Yes.
Because that was really.
Watch the episode. Look, wherever she goes, she just rocks it.
By the way, what the heck is Arum? Arum?
Yeah, it's a company, but I forget why or what it is.
Well, Brian, let us know what that is. All right, before we.
He's probably thinking it's the company that she won the contract for. It wasn't that.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe somebody will answer.
Unless they change their name.
Yep, could be. Well, before we bring on our guests, we got to do something. This is really special because one of our guests is actually a part of this. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do.
And now it's time for Stump the Godfather with the venerable Paul Greenberg, brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot.
You know what? The
Beam
more
me up.
the
Beam me up. Get me out of here. Beam me up.
more I
Get
hear
me out of here.
the more I hear him say that, it really does sound like he's saying stomp instead of stump. Now I could be wrong, but it seems like the more I hear it, yeah.
Well, that either means either he or you probably need a therapist.
Well, I'm sure I do. I can only speak for myself. But let's do a quick one here because we've got our guests sitting there.
Chomping at the bit.
One of them then called you, just said stomp. All right, so here we go. Here is the question for this week's Stump the Godfather, brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot. Okay, so this came to me, I think, from Statistica. I'm just glad I didn't butcher saying Statistica because it is kind of hard to say Statistica. If I say it one more time.
Especially when your audio interface isn't working.
Yeah, and I'm talking to a mic that is not plugged in. I mean, this is really stupid. But anyway, the average daily time spent using the internet by online users worldwide in 2017 was 6 hours and 46 minutes. That sounds like a lot. What was it in Q1 of this year? And take a guess. Put your guesses in the comments. In our esteemed guests in the green room, you want to take a shot? Let it put it out there as well.
Put it out in the private chat if you can't get it into the comments.
Right. We'll put it 2017, 6 hours, 46 minutes. This year, what are we talking?
Should I wait till the other ones do theirs?
Anybody, you got your chance to put it in. See, I think I know what you're doing. Yeah, when you put it in, then everybody starts doing that Price is Right thing. Like it's your guess minus a little. Sven has already put his guess in. He's saying 9 hours. Yeah. So let's see. Anybody else want to get their guess in? Hey, come on, Brian. Come on, Rebecca. Come on, Patrick. Pete. All you guys. Put a guess in there. All right. While they're doing that, you want to. All right. Somebody else just put. Oh, okay. Anand. Oh, wow.
Anand saying nine hours.
Really? Rebecca is saying 6.9. Patrick might be saying 5.
Wait. So 6 hours 46 minutes is 6.75.
Michael Klein, 9 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm coming in lower than
Pete
that.
is 10 hours.
Same as not 6.
So you're saying 6 hours and 46 minutes. Okay. Or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Wolf. So that's six.
Patrick is 6 hours.
More than more than 24 hours a day. All right.
Meow.
Okay, so we got dogs and we got cats here. All right.
Michael's saying is assuming it includes mobile.
It does. It's the whole enchilada. All right. So we had a lot of guesses in there. You're saying how many? 9?
I'm not saying that. That's Sven and that's Sven.
What did you say again?
I didn't say anything. I was waiting for everybody else to finish. Right? I'm saying, and this is going to be surprising. I'm saying I'm closer to Anand than anybody else on this one. I'm saying 7 hours and 15 minutes. I'm only saying that really to differentiate myself from Anand. And the reason I'm saying it's not much more, and Anand, I'm guessing saying about the same, is during COVID was much more. Now that people get outside again, it's starting to go down again, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. So I'm saying I just on a reasonable guess, 7 hours, 15 minutes. All right. And that's just because to be different than Anand, I tend to lean where he is.
So if Anand hadn't have said what he said, what would your guess have been?
About 7 hours and 15 minutes. I had always planned that. It was not.
So Anand's guess really didn't have any impact on you.
Well, I mean, he's the closest one to mine, right? Okay. That's all.
All right. Lots of good.
And guesses. Rebecca's actually even closer.
Well, I think Patrick was with the 6 wolves.
Right, the 6 wolves.
All right. So here is the answer.
6 hours 40. Anand's really 6 minutes away.
So what happened is it actually went down a little, slightly.
Actually, it went up from 2022.
Well, but
You know
that's
what I'm surprised at? What I'm really surprised at? That the 2020 numbers and the early 2021 numbers or third quarter
aren't,
2020
aren't even
number,
better.
they're barely different than what they were pre-COVID. I mean, if people are in the house more, I assume they're online more, but apparently not.
Apparently not. Maybe that's about as far as we can go with watching all the stuff. I was
Yeah, I mean,
kind of surprised that it actually has gone down from that time.
yeah, me too, a little bit.
Yeah,
Wow.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
So I would, you were
It
close.
never cracked 7.
I have to say, I am completely impressed with the Midas Amar Tech because he
Yeah.
said about the same, which was only 6 minutes difference.
Right. So that's about the same. And I differentiated from him, even though I would have anyway, but because I knew it was not more, it wasn't a lot more. And if anything, it would be less.
Well, that's why you're the venerable Paul Greenberg.
Yeah. It didn't work though.
Well, you were
Yeah.
close. You were close. Everybody was kind of in the ballpark. It wasn't crazy. So. Another great episode of Stump the Godfather, brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot. Yes, AI continues to sponsor us.
That's right. That's right. And we don't even have to enter our own data anymore, thanks to Microsoft Viva Sales. Right. So
all right. So now I turn things over to the venerable Paul Greenberg for the introduction of today's guest.
You didn't leave me a whole lot with your conversation about Scott and Anand already.
Yeah, well, you can do something.
Well, I'll do something. So here's the deal. Let's start with Scott. As Brent pointed out, we have known this gentleman a long time, and I'll tell you, there's 2 things about him from a personality standpoint that are just clear as day. He's super smart and he's super nice. I mean, he has look. This guy has done well for himself, right? He was a really, really, really well-regarded guy at Salesforce. Left, came over eventually to Northwest Ventures, where he became a partner. And, and that's an investment company. It's not a tech software company. And he's done really well there. And the thing about him is he's a very cogent person. So you can understand when he explains. It's kind of like what I said about Silvana. When he tells you something, you understand what he's talking about. He's not trying to dazzle you with his knowledge. He's trying to help you think through something that you might be wrestling with. So, I mean, the guy is really remarkable. And so I am thrilled to death because it's, given he's got a history in enterprise tech and he's now got he's working with a significant company in the investment world. It's going to be fascinating, and I promise you, not only will you understand every word, you're going to really like this guy. Anand, you already know, for God's sake. He's just one of the kindest human beings I've ever known. He's always lending a helping hand to people, including us. I mean, he has been instrumental in helping PPN get off the ground, just in us trying to know how to do something. He's always there with advice and help. He's also this, he's not an old guy. He's a young guy. He's vibrant. He's just the kind of person you want to hang out with. I mean, that's probably the best way to put it. And here's a guy who also has enormous experience in both technology and investing, right? And he doesn't do exactly what Scott does, which is one of the reasons that it makes the show so interesting. But what the thing he's able to do, he has this really fine-tuned mind when he can look at the big picture and kind of extract the important, I'll call them trends, but they're not really trends. The important is sort of the movement of history, through time, right? And then he can pull out the things that are kind of driving that history, and then he can locate it within a context that makes it identifiable as something to pay attention to. And in his case, it could be something to invest in, given the companies that are in it, or it can be something to just be aware of because the forces of the market or the forces of on the globe and generally are being impacted by it. And Anand's really good at picking that out, and then once again getting it across to us ordinary proletariat, right? So let's bring them on, man. We got two good ones here.
By the way, in addition to lending a helping hand, he's also lent a helping voice. Just thought
Oh, that's right. He is the voiceover. He's the voice of PPN. Hi, guys.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Oh, there he is. He's got the. I always like when Scott comes on because I could see if he's bought any new gear or anything like that. Look at this stuff, man. That's awesome.
He changes the
Isn't
attention for
that's one of Jimi Hendrix originals, right back there.
Oh, yes, it was definitely one of Jimmy's guitars, and
yeah,
this is.
I thought so.
I have to disclose something up front, though. This is the auto-generated version of me today. I figured for this topic it would be more suitable to have the Gen AI Scott. So it's nice to see you all. And I may hallucinate.
That's all right. We're constantly hallucinating just normally, so it'll work, right? So I'll tell you, I have a sort of a big question to ask each of you, which is, look, we've had two seminal things occur when it comes to, let's call it the world of, I'm calling it the world of technology. It's really the world for at least one, which is we had COVID, of course, and we're now in the post-COVID era. And we've also then now we have, of course, the talk of the town and the talk of the universe, which is AI. And in the meantime, I'm wondering, has that, I mean, look, there have been, and you still have companies that are startups looking for money. You still have companies that are looking to be acquired. You still have enterprise tech companies acquiring other companies. You still have companies, or you still have, say, Northwest or Anand, you or others looking at investing in these types of companies. How have these strategies been impacted and changed? And that's a lot to ask because I named about 25 different things
for the show, by the way.
Yeah. So why don't we start with all of that, right? So either one of you guys, just take it away.
Oh, please, Scott. I'm sure you've got a good synopsis ready to go.
Oh, yeah. Boy, guys, I prepped really hard for this, and I'm glad you gave me a softball there.
Yeah.
Well, one of the interesting things about the sort of the technology world in general right now is that we always have these reflections, these mirror reflections of past versions of ourselves. And AI is nothing new. In fact, I was just talking to somebody from Term Sheet the other day about how back when I was in undergrad, the military was one of my professors in electrical engineering school at Michigan. He was working on a military project that was declassified, and it had to do with using neural nets to advise tanks on how to measure the trajectory of an incoming missile and deflect it.
Jeez.
And I mean, that's AI, right? Like 100 years ago or whenever that was, mid 90s. And so, neural nets have been around since the 70s. I mean, the mathematics, and you remember, I don't know if you remember the old Game of Life. I'm really dating myself now. This is like in the 80s. We used to have these little circles that would kind of form colonies and eat each other up and build new communities. Anyway, so this stuff it's been around for a while. And, in the early, 2010 era, where with all the deep learning and, advanced machine learning journals that were coming out, companies started to build stuff. And, you saw Microsoft in 2015 with their bot framework, and Salesforce had their own bots, and everybody had bots. Like there was a bot explosion in the 2015 era. And it didn't really pan out for a variety of reasons. One, I think AI, that type of AI wasn't ready yet. Transformers eventually came out. Now we have LLMs. Now we can actually talk to this stuff, and it actually talks back to us in a coherent way, usually. But it's all just this set of repeating processes. So I think a lot of people will ask, well, are we in a new world? Are we in a new world now where companies are AI companies now? Are we in a new world where we think totally differently about how to build products and technologies, and as investors, how to invest in companies. And I think the answer is not really. I think it's a really interesting evolution, and we took a stair step, no doubt. November 30th, 2022, ChatGPT hits the scene, and everyone felt like there was this tectonic shift in the universe, in the world, and all of a sudden now AI is finally here. But C3.ai had gone public before that, So anyway, I guess that's my way of saying I'm really excited about all these new capabilities and new features and functions, because every company is going to be an AI company. Every company. I don't care if you're a B2B software company or if you're producing detergent for the laundry. You're going to be an AI company, because we're all going to be using AI, whether it's in our customer product itself. Okay, probably the detergent's not going to have AI built into it, but I can guarantee the back office systems at Clorox, yeah, they're going to have finance systems and other systems of financial forecasting and systems of analytics and prediction that are all AI powered. So the answer, I guess, in short, is the world is very quickly becoming an AI first and an AI everywhere world, and that's kind of how I see it.
What do you think, Anand?
This is why I let Scott go first, because he always puts together a great synopsis of everything that's going on, and I can just dovetail on it. And this is my third generation of working on AI matters. The first was actually around Scott's era, what he was describing, which was artificial neural nets were huge. I mean, it was the first time that code and the processing power was very portable, and you could actually place that into different devices, and there was just enough bandwidth to be able to direct or orchestrate in many ways. And so my experiences were in the energy space, and we were modeling energy grids, and we had to be accurate both in terms of near-term forecasting as well as contingency planning for 20 years from now, or at least my stint with a number of government kinds of research was around infrastructure resiliency. So if you have a model of the grid and something happens to it, how do you make sure that we stay online, and what does that look like? And then we had our the second iteration was about machine learning, and I think a lot of people got excited about that, which I think people like Scott and I weren't so much, because it was something you could do in an Excel spreadsheet. But the cool thing was that it was quite accessible. And so AI today has grown in terms of its capabilities, but I think the real explosion that's occurred has been the accessibility by people able to use the AI in an everyday fashion. And that's part of the reason why Gen AI has created that. I mean, there's a hype, but I feel like this is a little more realistic because it's impacting people on a day-to-day basis, versus people didn't realize they were interacting with AI and maybe some other systems that corporations or organizations were using in the past. So to speak to the investment side of things, I mean, I think you guys know I used to work on the MarTech landscape with Scott Brinker, a wonderful guy, and we used to have a category called AI, and there were companies that were just focused on that. And I convinced him to say, we discussed it, and I convinced him that we don't need that. Every company is going to have this capability built into it, and it's about the problem you're solving, or it's the feature that you're bringing to the table that AI can enhance as a result of that. And so we dropped it, and that was a few years ago. So the accessibility is very powerful, and that's what's being transformative societal. From a society standpoint, is how we're using it, how we're interacting with it, how are we dealing with its shortfalls, how do we improve on it, and then even politically speaking, we're going to get to a point where jobs are going to be impacted. We're going to see economies change, and certainly the way that we even interact globally on all fronts are going to be something that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on. And for each company, in not necessarily a startup company, but large enterprises, just as a preface to our conversation, is starting to really have a sort of a tiger team of people, sort of an AI ops of sorts, really focused on all dynamics of AI and how that does, as Scott said, transform everything that we're going to do, because every company is going to be an AI company in some form or fashion.
So how do you evaluate companies going forward now? Are you leveraging AI and all this, well, some of the different things that have really caught people's attention, and how you guys evaluate the companies? And then I guess the flip side or the second thing is, how important is it for the companies that you're looking at to be far down the road using or creating these things that everybody is so interested in? Do they, if you don't have this, don't even think about it? And this wasn't even thought about a year ago, but now, as Scott has that date burned into his silo, like it sounds like, it seems like everything has changed. And so, with that, how has that changed the way you approach it?
Well, Brent, I've personally become really reliant on AI, particularly the zoom filter that eliminates my wrinkles. And I've noticed in this meeting in particular, I don't have that filter, and so you're seeing like the natural me, and I'm a little uncomfortable with it. I'm just going to say that right out front. On the how we evaluate companies question, there are two types of companies that are implementing AI in some way today. I mean, two different ways of thinking about it, I guess, is one way to say it. One way is to say, we are building whatever we're building, and let's come up with an example. Let's say that it's a customer service recommendation engine. Okay, it's going to recommend the next best article to surface to an end customer. Well, along comes OpenAI, and they say, here are some APIs you can use, and then the developer of that software may say, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of put a thin layer on top of that API, and we're going to feed the results to the agent. We're going to inform the LLM about the knowledge base itself, and we're going to use the agent's query in natural language to ask the LLM which article is the best article. Now, that to me is a very lightweight, it's a powerful use case, but it's a thin layer of IP. I wouldn't characterize a company building that type of product as being a deep tech AI company. Okay. And that's okay. I think we're going to have a lot of those. We're going to have thousands of those, and some of them are going to be really great. They're going to change our lives in really great ways. There's another category of companies, though, that's starting from scratch. They're starting today, and they're saying to themselves, okay, now that we have all this stuff, now that we've got these LLMs that can, we can prompt it to, mine the entire internet's worth of knowledge and help us orchestrate new processes and automate our lives in ways that we never even thought of before. And they start from scratch and they build up from that premise. And they say, I've seen some companies say, what if there was a ChatGPT or even an auto GPT, which is, of course, is the stringing together of multiple ChatGPT requests, feeding one result into the next as an input and executing a complex task. Could there be an auto GPT for business? Well, I mean, that sounds like a holy grail moment where I tell a business system, hey, I want to create a project. As a project manager, I want you to build out my roadmap for the next 2 years. Here are all the products I want to build. Here are all the employees I have. And here are all the different tools we've got to work with to build it. Tell me exactly who should be doing what when over the next 2 years in order to nail that project. Now, that could be for humans. That could take months to create that plan. But in a holy grail B2B auto GPT for business world, maybe you could press a button and have the answer within minutes. So so hopefully I'm clear about those pure deep tech AI companies that are starting from scratch and building their entire product and technology around this, and then others that are sort of wrapping a layer upon features and capabilities that they already deliver today to make them better. That's how we're evaluating. That's at high level. We're separating those two, and we're looking for the best companies in those two categories.
So when I think those are great, and when you're studying a noisy market, one of the things that you want to look at is, so Scott's spot on, right? You've got these, I don't want to call them incremental, because some incremental or even productivity, kind of enhancements are incredible and they are powerful. And I think Scott's company even invests in one that is remarkable and is turning into a major platform. But there is the ones that really transform the way the company has to operate. And I think those have a longer, holding investable, holding potential returns, because what you'll see is there's a pain point. Everybody wants to go after the tech that gets them the immediate return. But with something like AI, which is very transformative, the way that you operate as a firm or as an organization is going to have to change. And so platforms or startups or innovations that are enabling that, I think will be another, sort of a layer or sort of, a lens on top of how Scott has described it. Because those types of companies are going to facilitate what the next generation of companies are going to look like. Maybe it's fewer people, or maybe it's the same number of people and the productivity skyrockets through the roof. But it's not going to be an incremental kind of capacity. It's got to be in an organizational, kind of throughput. And again, kind of talking about that whole, governance, security, policy, cornerstone of people. I think even Keith had talked about this in one of his, what's his newsletter? That Was the Week.
Yeah.
Where there's a need for, a sort of I think he described it like ICANN, where there's a group, the way they operate in the domain expertise, domain world is having those types of people managing a lot of that, but it transforms and creates a level of trust and security for the organization as they move forward with a lot of that AI. I guess the only other thought, related to that is looking for investable companies, whether there's also the there's also, I'm also working with both private equity and VC. And so in the later stages, and we're looking at existing portfolio companies, whether it's evaluating potential companies or even, how do you take existing companies, existing, startups that have been invested in, and then increase their productivity. And so watching that lens has been really interesting to see how they bring that to light in their very dynamic environments that they're in. Yeah, I don't know, Scott, do you have thought, are you seeing anything, in how you're viewing not just the AI startups, but the startups that aren't focused necessarily on AI, but bringing AI into the fold to increase value creation within their organizations?
Yeah, I think just about every company at Norwest that's active, which is about 250 of them, are using AI in one way or another. Some are just automating processes in their own business, right? Could be back office, could be front office. Others are now, building AI into their products. I think some companies feel pressure to build AI into their products, and they're getting market pressure, they're getting customer pressure, they're getting maybe even investor pressure. Hopefully not from me, but it usually doesn't end well if you just go at it from a technology looking for a problem to solve angle. But the good news is that most companies today, and I said this earlier, most companies today can benefit from AI in one way or another. You just have to think about what you want to automate. And this is my philosophy. My philosophy is human beings should not be doing the work that machines can do, because there's way too much work to be done. I would rather see all of us doing way more interesting work, way more human work, and let machines automate the heck out of everything else. And that's fine, right? I mean, it's like the Industrial Revolution. We didn't put the fashion industry out of business because they invented looms. I mean, people just got more jobs, and the whole industry became more prolific. And next thing you know, there's 100x more jobs. So that's what AI is going to do here, I think.
And that's the line, I think, Scott, is you're like that there is just get the productivity work out there. But if you're looking for companies, the investable companies, it's still what problem are you solving? What challenges are you facing? And if you just slap AI into the midst of this, that's a big red flag, right? You can't force fit that into use cases. That makes sense.
That's right. So, not everything needs a chatbot.
That's right.
Okay.
As we've learned.
So here's given all this, first two observations, Scott, if you want to touch yourself up, you can go into the settings and it's got touch yourself up, except it'll make you look like a mannequin. I just want you to know that. Right. That's the first thing. The second thing is, the second observation is when you started talking about Clorox earlier, I came up with an idea of nanobots and detergents that can target, like, oh my God, we left a spot over there. Let's go get it. Right. I mean, things like that. So that's even detergent. But here's the actual question though. What about companies that aren't necessarily now, given situation, smaller companies, large companies that aren't particularly AI driven? For example, I saw a company the other day literally called Metal. And all it did, and all it was a lot, but all it did was at a big scale, could handle called multi-system synchronization. So for example, if you had a wholesaler that had say Ingram Micro type of company that had 5,000 companies using 250 different SFAs, and you had to know how much inventory you actually needed to ship based on the fact that they're putting in orders via the 250 SFAs. This would synchronize all 250 SFAs so that you could actually do that, and it would literally was very good at that. AI part, not much. I mean, is there interest in those kind of companies?
Yeah, well, I mean, this kind of opens itself up to a plug for both Anand and me, a company that we're both involved in called Lavender.ai. Lavender is the type of company that if you're selling anything to anyone, it'll read your email, your outbound email to a cold prospect, and it'll give you it'll score it from 0 to 100 on the likelihood that you'll get a response. And if you get a 23 out of 100, it'll tell you the top 10 ways you can bring it up to an 80 or a 90. And you make a change to this word or that word. Well, that's AI. And it doesn't matter what you're selling or whether it's technological or otherwise. If you're out reaching out, I mean, most people selling things are using email these days. And so that's an example of a way that a company like Metal could use AI in just to make what they're already doing better.
Oh, and I don't doubt they can. It's really more of a question of, is that something that companies would be willing, like investment companies or angels or whoever, would be willing to invest in? It's more that. I mean, I'm sure it's not that they have zero AI. They're just not focused around the AI. They're focused in a way, sort of like the front end of a MuleSoft, right? It's a little different thing.
Yeah, if there's if they're hitting on a big problem that's to be solved, I mean, everything doesn't have to be solved with AI, right? I mean, so I think that's a little bit of what I was alluding to earlier, is that everything necessarily doesn't have to have AI in it. They should certainly, I hope that the founders of the company or people in the organization are spending time looking at it to see what's impacted. I mean, there's an organization that's working on various kinds of translations, and Gen AI has kind of transformed the way that they're going to have to look at things and moving forward. And so, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I can confidently say I wouldn't necessarily say just eliminate a company just because they're not using, or they are not an AI company in that fashion. If they're not considering or researching or looking into how AI impacts their addressable market or the way they can go to market, yes, then that would be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. We're still investing in companies that are not AI companies, and that's great. It's fine. I mean,
that's where we're going next. What are the things that are non-AI that are still of interest or appealing, or that you're willing to put or interested in putting money in? Because quite honestly, I can't think of anything since November, whatever that date was in 2022. November 30th, 2022. Seems like somebody I know has a birthday on that date, but besides the point. I can't remember anything else being talked about. I mean, remember when they were talking about the metaverse and like crypto and all these other things? You don't hear a peep from that now. It seems like everything is so focused on this. So are there other things that are not directly AI focused that are still things that are worth you guys looking at and taking a chance on?
I think so. I mean, look at the world. Look at the world of commerce. Commerce is being turned upside down right now, and it's not because of AI. Commerce is being turned upside down because you've got systems that are in place from the late 90s, ATG and Hybris and WebSphere, Commerce Server. I mean, that's what's powering most of the e-commerce world today. At least the $1 billion plus GMV brands out there. That's a big problem because it costs 100 engineers as a retailer. I got to have 100 engineers on staff to maintain these things. So there's this new category called headless commerce. I think it's sometimes called composable commerce, or service oriented, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, the idea is that it's been over 20 years and there hasn't been a new massive platform evolution in the digital commerce world. Now, does that have anything to do with AI? Well, I mean, I'm sure there will be some great AI plays in all that, but that in and of itself as a category is not an AI category, right? And we've invested in 2 of them.
Yeah, I've been looking at healthcare. I mean, there's been, certainly a lot of AI involved in it, but then there's also new patient care, there's shortages, there's new innovations on treatments. So there's a lot of advancements in that, and there's certainly, it's one of those bigger problems to solve that requires an incredible amount of capital. And, looking for, looking for folks who are thinking innovatively, but very realistically about what their impact is going to be in the healthcare space is one. And then, my favorite's always been energy. So anything energy related, some of that does dovetail into climate tech, but most of that is, sustainable energy. As we are growing as a species, we're having this insatiable need for appetite for energy and power, in a variety of different fronts. And there's some really interesting things on that front. And then consumer services are another one. And then I certainly echo, Scott's perspective on the commerce side of things. That's a hot place to be.
I think Michael makes a good point. You do headless commerce there's no silver bullet here. Right. We don't eliminate the need for developers, but what would you rather your developers do? Build out a sort of a 2023 level customer experience for your customers, or try to keep your old backbone of your data system up and running and not collapsing because it was never designed to scale this way. I mean, those are the 2 uses of developers here in the old world versus the new world. But Michael, you make a good point. I mean, if you want to build a sophisticated international, digital commerce infrastructure, you're not going to get away from developers entirely. There's no doubt.
Yeah, Michael's a smart guy. He used to run retail for Adobe and struck out on his own right now.
But he didn't strike out. He just struck out.
No, he has gone out on what's the old expression? He has put up his own shingle.
His shingle, all right.
There, but not the shingles, right? That's what people my age get. So one last question, because I know we're kind of up against. Well, this is the penultimate question. Yes. All right, then 2 last questions. So this is a question I'm sure you always get, but at the same time, nobody ever really answers it properly. I always get it from mostly smaller companies, wondering, because they're always looking for money, whether it's wise or not. They're always looking for it either way, and they have no clue. Literally none. Even when they do the research, they don't seem to understand how they start the process. And I mean, just the first step. Now, both of you are investing in similar ways and different ways. So can you each talk to just a first step for people, because they really don't know, and they struggle with it all the time? Yeah, well, that's for another day, Michael. Another day. No, that would be a rant, and our show would go till 6, right? So, no.
I'll say that if this is their first time at their own venture, they really just need to go hang out with other people that have been doing venture, different types of ventures, because I found that being alongside people who have done it, even just a little bit further along than yourself, you can appreciate what they're trying to accomplish, understand what those first steps need to be. Yes, you can watch and research all the things, but it's nice to have real-time dialogue with someone to make that happen. The other thing that I see, and it's been a while since I've looked at a lot of early stage, but there's a lot of key components missing when you're trying to pitch an investor about whether, because we want to know whether you understand your own market and whether that problem fits into that market, and there's a large enough of an opportunity, between those two. And really having that understood is something that's probably one of the biggest and first steps, that if you can, because it'll eliminate whether you should be doing this or not, right? It could save you 5 years and millions of dollars. But there's just a couple of first steps. I'm sure Scott's got some other ones.
No, those are great. Those are great. And I would just add, what really helps if you're going out for the first time and you're trying to maybe raise some initial seed capital or pre-seed, whatever you want to call it, give your potential investors some confidence that you've tested your thesis in the market. Because it's really easy to sit around in a room, like put yourself in a cave for a while, cook up some brilliant business idea, cook up some amazing product idea, and then put some wireframes together in Figma and, just go out and start to pitch. But I'll tell you what lands even better is if you say, hey, we talked to these 20 customers or these 50 customers, and sure, they didn't pay us a penny for it, and they didn't commit to anything, but boy, did they give us good feedback. And here's where we started. And then after talking to the first 20, we're over here now. Then after talking to the next 20, we've iterated a little bit more. We think we're onto something. We think that of those 50 we talked to, we could probably sell something to at least half of them. And use names, use quotes, make it as data-driven as you can, because guess what? Any great investor is going to go out and they're going to do that research themselves anyway. So you might as well have the confidence yourself that when they go do that they're going to find the same thing you did.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt if they are paying you, even if it's not the ideal price. Because every customer will always say also, and I'm sure you've heard this too, right? I mean, they'll say, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, we're interested. Even if you use it for free, there's just not that same, sometimes there's just not that same sort of the reaction or just kind of the engagement and appreciation for what is being done, unless you put some dollars down. But
I agree with that.
Especially in this environment. I think you definitely could do that, generally speaking. But I think in this environment, we would call it traction, but I don't want to speak to how much traction you really need, but it definitely helps to speak to the fact that, even though you don't have a perfect product, you are truly, as Scott's saying, helping someone figure out what that right problem is and iterating on it, and getting someone to even help you fund it from a income standpoint or revenue standpoint.
Yep. Sometimes we call those design partners, and sometimes you have design partners before there's even anything to use. That's right. It's just it's maybe scratched on the back of a napkin somewhere, or maybe you got some wireframes, but you want to test your thesis because
that's right.
We all love to think that we're brilliant in our own ways, but when the market usually, at least it always convinces me that I don't know as much as I think I know. And, all that really matters is what your customers are going to do once you go to market.
I've done a venture 7 times, and, not all of them have been successful, but every single time it wasn't my original idea. It was some variation on it. And especially the biggest successful ones, or the ones that we've invested in, they were always not exactly the original one. So just for, food for thought for everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys. This has been great. I got just I think a 2-parter. Should be quick and easy. Has this rush to like all the interest in this area, has it made it investing or looking at companies the back any more difficult because of this immediate crush on this one area? Does it make it riskier to say, oh, we got to get this right, or if we don't? And then the second part is, what is this whole credit rating thing done to what you guys do? Has that also just lapped on a couple other layers of complexity to go along with this focus on this one area? How is this whole thing, this environment, has it made it more difficult or pretty much the same?
That's a good question, because it's one that I think about a lot and I experience a lot. The number of new companies being started now, and I would say in the last even say 6 months, is greater than what I've seen in the last 6 years on a per week basis. Why? I think I can only surmise a couple different things. Number one, AI makes it really easy to build a product really fast. And by the way, a lot of development, code frameworks and other development platforms and toolkits, you can piece together a full Tetris board really fast these days. And what that does is it creates a lot of noise. There's a lot of companies that don't have a lot of IP that have an application or a program or a software of some sort that looks pretty impressive. But when you peel back the first layer of the onion, you see, oh, well, actually, all you're doing is you're using OpenAI and a couple lines of code, or maybe you're just piecing together a couple open source projects and slapping a UI on it. So there's a lot of that going on right now. And I think AI, and particularly OpenAI and Bard, and what's been going on with all the LLMs, make it easier to create something impressive really, really quickly. But you gotta figure out, is there really something there under the hood that is investable, that you could build a durable company with? And then the second piece of it is that there were 218,000 tech workers laid off in the last year. That's the statistic I saw. Well, even if you take 5% of those and you say those people went out and started companies, okay, you got 10,000 people starting companies right now that probably otherwise wouldn't have. Right? Maybe they would have, but usually not. They had nice cushy jobs, and the FANG,
or at least not all at once. At least not all at once.
Yeah. But
drip out, right? Yeah.
And so sometimes great companies are built by former operators in other big companies. I mean, Mark Benioff came from Oracle. Obviously, he did a pretty good job there. But not everyone from a big company is suitable to start a small company. Sometimes there's some learning, some heuristics you have to build up, some scar tissue from, twisting and turning and pivoting and doing all the hard stuff and getting in the weeds and, sweeping the floors and cleaning the toilets. I can say, because I've done this with my own startups in a previous life. So there's certain things so that also creates noise. And so that answers hopefully the first part of your question, Brent, and I'll hand it over to Anand.
I think that I am so accustomed to just hyped up trends, right? I mean, part of the beauty of studying the world of marketing technology has been, how do you cut through the noise? And it has kind of given me a little bit of instinct and heuristics and somewhat of a methodology and thesis of, what is true, what's not. And you're reading signals outside of, what kind of companies to look at. It's not perfect by any means, but it's a lot of, if you could remember how machine learning would eliminate all the ones that have red flags, it's that kind of a, training over time. So, and given that I've had experience with AI, just on and off over my career, I really have focused on the people and what they're trying to solve. And if they're just not articulating that, or I'm not convinced that they really could build sort of a community, the right relationships, the right partnerships, further down, or pivot very quickly. Scott alluded to this, right? You've got to be able to be okay with changing what you're building, especially early on, or even later on. You can't be married to it right away. Then, that to me means that even what you're building now is something that I feel like the founders can certainly, make a change, an adaptable change, and make calculated risks. And so I'm looking for people who can mitigate risks, but make calculated risk, not mitigate risk, but just make calculated risk, and then being able to be very adaptable. It's the product still matters, and who they're going after and what they're going after still matters. But I like to see more of those types of those other attributes, in terms of developing good relationships with the community and good relationships with other, partners, because they make for, when you have a board sitting, overseeing their company, then they know how to operate and take advantage of those resources and assets that they're in front of them and willing to listen.
All right. Credit rating. Does that have any impact at all? What do you guys do?
Honestly, I've been, the problem, especially I've been looking at it from a private equity standpoint because a lot of debt is necessary, or managing a lot of financial instruments for deals or add-ons. I think it'll be right now. It just seems like it'll be a trickle down effect for now, but nothing quite immediate. VC, it's the money is usually in the bank, but there's also instruments later on that that are required in some instances for later stage, of course. But early stage, early mid, I leave it up to Scott to speak to that.
Yeah, I think having a credit partner, a venture debt partner, even in the early stages, is a great idea, because you never know when you're going to need a few bucks for a rainy day, or maybe your product rollout took a little bit longer than you thought, or maybe signing those contracts took an extra quarter, or whatever it is. So I even advise my seed and Series A stage companies to find a debt partner, a venture debt partner, or a banking partner in that way. I think that the debt market has been changing a lot in the last 3 years. COVID had some impact. I think that the rising interest rates certainly had a lot of impact. I think changes in credit rating could have impact, like Anand was saying. Could have some effect, a latent effect. Well, we have to wait and see. I'm not raising any red flags or sounding the alarms in any way right now. I think there'll always be partners out there to partner with for venture debt facilities, and later different types of vehicles as the company matures. So yeah, I'm not overly worried about it.
Awesome. But this has been great.
Amazing, actually.
Lots of good stuff here. I'm surprised it's almost 4:15. Well, on the
holy cow,
because it was such a good conversation. I really appreciate both Scott and Anand joining us today. You don't even have to ask them about the sports stuff because we already
know the answer to those. So we're
good to be back. So
you guys are already past that. You wouldn't have been here again, right? Exactly.
Well, thanks so much for having us back. Always fun with you guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
A lot more to talk about with you guys. You guys are great. We definitely want you on again and again and again and again.
And next time, Scott, you're going to have to play one of those instruments too.
Oh man, I'm busy. I'm busy that next time.
And you can go into StreamYard and just use the little touch-up checkbox.
All right, guys. All right. Thanks, Scott and Anand. And on behalf of both of them, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and we just can't end until Minnie.
There she is.
Makes her stand.
And the true star.
That's right. See you next week.
Our North Star pointing north.